All right, so as we do sometimes, we have DC3 Girl walk over into a group of people who look official or like they know something that we don't, and we have her wrangle them over this way. So we've got somebody who apparently drew the short straw here. We've got Andy, who is a World War II reenactor. Andy, come over here and join us.
Hello there.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi.
All right, so tell us a little about what you're doing here. You're dressed up. You have some cool clothes on.
I'm from the UK. I'm from Milton Keynes in the UK. I'm a World War II reenactor, which basically means we collect militaria, we dress in period uniforms, and we recreate different parts and different aspects of the war. In particular, I do a unit called the Oxfordshire and Buckinghamshire Light Infantry, which is very famous for capturing Pegasus Bridge on the evening of D-Day.
Well, that makes sense why you're here then. We're not too far away from Pegasus Bridge.
No, only a couple of miles away.
No kidding. So when you say you reenact it, what does that mean? Like, what do you do?
Well, we have different levels of reenactment. So we can do public shows where we would do a show and tell display,
right.
And we'd lay out kit and equipment, and we talk to the public, let them handle it, let them try kit on to educate them and give them, because as you know, with history, if you can feel, touch and smell, it's a lot better to then relate it to reading books, etc. We then do private training events, which are closed events without the public, and we'll actually live in an old World War II camp, and we'll go through training regimes, learning drill, weapon handling, tactics, etc., etc.
So it's pretty hardcore. It's not just like, oh, I'm going to stand around in the field with some camouflage.
No. And then the last sort of event we do, we call private battles. Again, they're private, and we'll go and live in the field as per a World War II soldier with weapons, firing blank and pyrotechnics, and recreate a battle.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how did you get into that? Is that just like one day you woke up and you're like, I'm going to spend some money? Like
a long story, because I'm very old, but as a child, I was very, very interested in it. It was the thing that captured my imagination.
Right.
I've been fascinated by D-Day since I was that high. I used to read books, comics, make models, play war games. Then I eventually joined the army, the British Army, and it was a natural progression when I started earning money to buy kit. And then when I got a little bit older, I thought, you know what? I actually want to play dress up now.
Play dress up.
And as my wife calls it, it's playing World War II dress up.
World War II dress up. You know, we can send your wife a copy of the video so she can see it. Maybe we shouldn't do that?
Yeah.
You have permission to be out here doing this, right?
Yeah, she knows.
Okay.
She does know. She
all
does
right,
know.
good. So you get dressed up, you collect kit, and then you do all these different things. I think you were telling me right now, or over the next couple of days, you're actually part of a group that's doing a little setup at a battery or something.
Yeah. So I'm with a group of about 5 English guys.
Right.
We've come over from the UK on the invite with some French reenactors, and we're at a place called Merville Battery, which is very near the coast.
Okay.
And it was one of the German gun batteries that threatened Sword Beach, and it was a vital objective to be taken on the night of D-Day, and the 9th Battalion, the Parachute Regiment, dropped in at night and attacked it. Now, originally, the plan was for about 750 troops to assault it, but the drops didn't go very well, and only about 150 guys formed up for the assault.
Wow.
So very depleted very depleted force.
Yeah.
They didn't have all the material that they were supposed to have had, but they still assaulted and still achieved their objective. So we're there camping, recreating some stuff for the public, but for instance tomorrow night, for the next 3 nights, we're recreating the actual assault for the public. So public are coming along, they're going to sit in some bleachers, there's pyrotechnics, blank firing weapons, sound and light, and they'll watch us recreating the assault.
Does that sound something that might be interesting, chat? Does that sound like something we might try to get a camera to or something?
And where will that be?
Yeah.
That's at Merville Battery.
Merville Battery. Yeah, we're going to take a note of that because that sounds like a cool thing for us to see.
Yeah.
So again, Chad, I'm going to repeat something that he just said, that Andy just said here. About 750 paratroopers were supposed to drop there. And what did we say earlier? The job of the paratrooper was to jump into an area, out of an airplane. It's dark. You're already surrounded and outnumbered and outgunned. And you thought you were going to have 750 people, and you only had 150 people. And they still went?
They did. The chap in charge was a guy called Colonel Terence Otway. And one of the thoughts that he had, he thought to himself, I could say no. I could say I do not have the men to take this battery. But he kind of thought to himself, how can I then face my peers if I go home and say I didn't do this task? So he knew that he had a very big chance of failing, and he went anyway. And that's, with that generation, they knew the chance was very slim, but they still did it.
They still did it.
Yeah, and that's why we should respect them and try and remember them all the time.
You're absolutely right, and that's one reason you're out here doing this. That's why we're
Absolutely.
trying to share it with more people. Again, y'all, we have fun. I asked him if he has permission from his wife, but again, this is a serious thing. It's an honor to be out here and sharing this with y'all, right? So please keep that in mind while we talk through this. We'll be fun, we'll be interesting, but it is a very, very serious event to be here in this field on this day and tomorrow specifically too. So in terms of reenacting, do you reenact like a specific role? Are you a medic? Are you a light machine gunner?
I play the role of a captain in the Ox and Bucks Light Infantry, and that's purely because back in the UK I run a group, a reenactment group.
Right.
So it's appropriate rank to organise the guys that I organise. Within our group, we just portray standard air. We're not paratroopers.
Okay.
Although we wear a maroon beret, we're not paratroopers. We're air landing infantry, which means we came in by glider.
Oh, so there's a difference between the two.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
There's paratroopers and there's air landing infantry.
Air landing infantry. So you see the guys that are parachute regiment, and some of the real soldiers that have dropped here today are parachute regiment.
Right.
And they have the parachute regiment cap badge with the wings and the parachute and the crown.
Right.
As you can see, my cap badge is slightly different. I have a green backing and what's known as a hunting thorn with a cord, and it's a county, what we call in the UK a county regiment.
Right.
So most counties have a regiment named to them.
Okay.
So Oxfordshire and Buckinghamshire had a combined regiment known as the Oxfordshire and Buckinghamshire Light Infantry. And so in a parachute division or an airborne division in the UK, you would have 2 brigades that were parachute brigades.
Right.
And they would be parachute regiment or 3 parachute battalions in each, and then the final brigade would be an air landing brigade, and they would go or be delivered to war by glider.
Right.
And they were county regiments that were basically converted en masse to glider troops.
Wow.
So in the 6th Air Landing Brigade and the 6th Airborne Division, which was used in D-Day, you had the 1st Battalion, the Royal Ulster Rifles, so all Irishmen. You had the 12th Battalion, the Devonshire Regiment, so all guys from the southeast or southwest of England, and the 2nd Battalion, the Oxfordshire and Buckinghamshire Light Infantry, which are home county regiments.
Wow. Chat, and I'm talking to them when I say chat, this guy knows his stuff.
There was questions about the gliders.
There were questions about the gliders. I gotta say right quick, we randomly pull him over and ask if we can talk to him on the stream. I'm just gonna keep quiet and listen. Thank you so much for sharing all this with us. The question, I think, about the gliders?
Questions about the gliders. I'm wondering if you could describe the gliders themselves. These guys can pull it up if you give them the name of what, it is, and they can look at it.
And I think
how that works.
there is one of the gliders over at the Pegasus Bridge. There's a museum over there, right?
So you've got, in Normandy, there were 3 main gliders used.
Right.
On the British sector, the Horsa was the glider that was used for the majority of it. We also used a heavy lift glider known as the Hamilcar.
Okay.
In the American sector, the majority of the gliders were the Waco or the Waco glider, but the Americans also used some of the Horsa gliders because they had a larger capacity.
And that's like the name of the glider, right?
Yeah.
The Horsa glider.
The Horsa glider was made mainly of plywood, very few metal parts, but there were some. It had a capacity of 30 men, but it could also carry a jeep, it could carry anti-tank guns, it could carry field artillery pieces, and all sorts of other different loads within it. The Hamilcar glider was a heavy lift glider, and that would specifically bring in the 17-pounder anti-tank gun, which was a real killer. It was designed specifically to be able to take on the heavier German tanks, such as the Panther and the Tiger. Because it was a bigger gun, it needed a bigger glider, and the tow truck, the tractor that would pull it out at 1500 weight. You could also get in, and specifically in Normandy, it brought in the first air landing Royal Armour Corps. Sorry, the first air landing air landing reconnaissance regiment, which was Royal Armour Corps, and they flew in light tanks in Normandy. So
flew in light tanks.
Tetrap light tank. So that was the only time.
Tier 2.
In D-Day we used them. The 1st Airborne Division, which was our other airborne division, didn't use them, but the 6th Airborne was the only ones that used light tanks, and we brought them into Normandy. So yeah.
I didn't know that they flew in any tanks.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
They're really titchy, only tiny little things.
Wow.
But yeah, we did.
No kidding. So, are there any other questions? Did we see anything else in chat?
There are several questions.
And you can just keep talking if you just want to keep talking. I trust you to tell us interesting things.
So one question is, have you or your group done an actual glider landing?
I've been in normal sports gliders, so the 2-man gliders, and I've also parachuted as well. Really? Yeah. Although when I was in the army, I wasn't in parachute regiment, but I did a parachute course, and I've done 24 jumps. Wow. We've got the guys that are coming over in Dakota. There's 2 of our friends parachuting out of the Dakotas.
So they're on the way here right now.
Yeah, they're on the way.
That's why we're
hanging around.
That's what you're hanging around for. Us too.
Gonna give them some grief on the way in.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Critique their jump.
Well, we will know which one of them will say a certain word when he hits the ground, and we'll know who it is because they'll say it very loudly, and I won't be able to repeat it.
That's fine. It's a family-friendly stream.
Exactly.
Does he have like an armband or something so he can cover the microphone when he lands?
So we'll listen for something colorful, and we'll know.
Yes, exactly.
So one of the interesting questions I find as the only girl in the group
Yell at the mic.
is that we noticed there was a female paratrooper earlier.
Right.
Do you get very many women that participate? And somebody said, what do? Do they do more traditional women's roles, I think is what they said, which means they would have stayed home. There weren't traditional women's roles in this particular part of the battle.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Well,
so
they would have ferried the aircraft over here.
Right, they
it's
could
an
have ferried the
interesting one.
aircraft
I mean, back then it was very different and the world was different, so we maybe shouldn't judge them with today's eyes.
Sure.
But for instance, in the British forces, women were in the military, but they were in support roles. So drivers, mechanics, nurses, medics, etc., etc., etc. But the Polish forces, for instance, they allowed them to carry arms. We didn't allow ours to carry arms.
Right.
You look at the Soviet Union, they were actually fighting.
They were.
So,
And you had a large force. I didn't realize how many female pilots.
We
saw the thing the other day because the Americans had our WASP, which was a couple thousand.
A few thousand,
But I think you guys had over 100,000
I mean,
pilots.
they were
mainly a large number.
the sort of ferry pilot type role.
But a large number. And then the Russians had the Night Witches.
Yeah, they actually had combat pilots, 100,000 women Soviet combat pilots flying against the Germans.
But then you look at it now today, the British Army very recently have now opened up every single role in the British Army is now open to women. So traditionally the Royal Armour Corps and the Infantry have never been open to females, and now they are. So we're now completely, in the next few years you will probably see serving British female paratroopers jumping here. I mean, the girl that you saw, that's a young Dutch lady called Siggy that we know.
Yeah,
because we all know each other.
She jumped right here too.
And she's a prolific parachutist.
Wow.
She does a lot. She does the ones in Arnhem and here. She's only, I think, 22, but she's done God knows how many jumps there. And stuff.
Wow.
So somebody said, do you try and get women to join the reenactments?
Yes, and I wouldn't say we don't actually actively recruit anybody. Strangely enough,
Nope, that's- absolutely.
we just put on it. Generally, a group will start with a group of friends that maybe know each other through work or through maybe military service or something like that. We'll then form a group, put on displays, and then people might come up and enjoy what they see and then say, can we join? So we'll say, well, come along next time, spend a day with us, and if we like you, I think that's more about it. I mean, whether it's male or female, it's more about whether we get on, so that whether we gel, because at the end of the day, it's our hobby.
Right.
And you've got to enjoy your hobby. Yes, we enjoy what we do and what we portray, and there is the element of remembrance and paying tribute to the guys and girls that served, but ultimately, if we don't get on, we won't do it.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Absolutely.
But we do have guys that have their girlfriends and wives that come along. Sometimes they don't want to be full on involved in what we do, and sometimes they do. There's in the UK, there's an absolutely outstanding reenactment group called Daughters of Britain, and they've got a website, so go and have a look at it, and on Facebook as well.
Tell them, say chat to get the Daughters of Britain.
Daughters of Britain.
They'll do
and
it.
they portray an ATS, which is Auxiliary Territorial Service, which is what they call the women's army in the UK during the war, and they are superb.
Wow.
I've never seen a group so absolutely look fantastic. I mean, you look at me, I'm a middle-aged man. I'm not actually the age of a soldier back then. And all these girls, they're all sort of mid-20s up to maybe mid-30s, something like that.
Right.
And they look absolutely fantastic, and they all wear absolutely original kit. All their hair is done in the 40s fashions, and they are just great. And you know, it's a hobby for everyone.
Yeah.
And it just depends how much you want to immerse yourself in it, really.
That's another good question. So if you go and you do like an educational display or something like that, do you get paid for that, or is it just you take a weekend and you go?
Generally not.
Generally not. Paid in a couple pints or something, maybe.
It's our hobby.
Okay.
So we do it for free. So there are a lot of shows in the UK, for example, that will pay certain groups. So if you've got a group that has a lot of materials, say tanks or larger bits of kit, they may help or pay
defray expenses.
For the transportation, etc. But generally, we will go to a show for free.
Right.
We will put on the display, so an organizer of an event gets most of the stuff that's happening in there for free.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then we get to share it with everyone. They bring people to the event, you bring knowledge and experience and stuff to the event. And
we're very simple people. We like, first of all, we need somewhere to go to the toilet. So we want somewhere to go to the toilet.
Step one, it's on the list.
Great. That's a small request.
One,
I think.
toilet.
Yeah.
We want a source of water.
Water.
And we like a beer tent.
There you go, a beer tent. That sounds like a place I could go to, actually. I'm about to get me some kit, and we'll come hang out at the Battery and spend the night with y'all or something.
Someone asked the name of your group.
My group is known as the Oxfordshire and Buckinghamshire Light Infantry Living History Group.
Okay.
Yes,
Somebody type that out again.
Right.
Who can repeat it?
Right.
Repeat it one more time for us.
The Oxfordshire and Buckinghamshire Light Infantry Living History Group.
The Oxfordshire and Buckinghamshire Living History Light Infantry
Light
Group.
Infantry Living History Group.
Okay, between the four of us, we can get it.
Now
Do you
say
have
it
like
10
an
times
acronym
fast.
like the LL?
OBLI.
Oh, there you go. I was kidding, and there it is. No kidding. So do we see any other good questions there?
The beer tent is a high priority.
The beer tent is a high priority.
And they're just saying great things about you. How great it is to ask a question and immediately have someone here who can answer it for us.
Absolutely. That's
Someone
what we're doing with
pulled
our
off of his Jeep away from his
pulled
friends.
off of his Jeep, standing in a field with us, answering random questions with complete strangers.
To whoever's watching in the world.
Yeah,
wait, does he? Do you mind someone quoting you on their university work? Someone wants you to do their homework.
Or use him as a source, maybe.
Am I going to be in the footnotes?
Gosh, so
Yes, I can. Yeah.
there you go. Andy, thank you so much for
That's
the time.
all right, no worries.
We've got some reports here that the decks that are coming in are just over our observer on the other side of the channel.
Yeah, they're on the way. Yeah,
So they're
yeah,
headed that
yeah.
way. They're less than an hour
Well,
from us right now.
Our guys that are on there
Yeah.
have already texted us and said they're on the way. So, yeah.
Excellent.
So are they flying straight over and jumping?
Yes, they will be. Yeah. yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to be here. Andy, again, thank you so much
Okay.
for
Well,
the time.
well, thank you very much.
Chat, y'all know what to do. Put some love over here for Andy, a reenactor who spent a little bit of time answering some questions here with us.
Can I do? Hello, Mum.
That's perfect.
Cheers. Thank you.
Excellent. Excellent.